Hello, my name is Adolfo Rodriguez. I'm going to share with you today a demo of Bluemix, IBM's new platform as a service, and in particular show you how you can integrate your mobile app, cloud services, and enterprise systems of record. Now first we'll notice this company called Acme Anvils is looking at Bluemix to leverage cloud-based services and mobile support to build a mobile application that will allow them to interact with their customer relationship management system. This system today is backed by a DB2 database that resides on-premise behind a firewall. So the questions that we'll answer today is how can we invoke that database in a secure way? And in addition, how can we leverage the mobile services provided by Mobile Backend as a Service so that Jane can build a rich mobile application? We'll be focusing on the push notification service for the purposes of this demo. Now first what we'll see is that Bob, the integration developer, will leverage multiple APIs of many services in building his application. The cloud code will leverage the cloud integration service to interact with that backing database, and will also make use of Cast Iron Live to interact with the CRM system of Anvils R Us, a company that has been recently acquired by Acme Anvils. We'll also invoke a partner API in that of Pitney Bowes, and once a customer record is created, we will tweet about it using a Twitter API. Lastly, Bob will leverage the push notification system to push messages to interested mobile consumers. And all that remains is for Jane to invoke the API that Bob presents in her mobile application by developing code in the Android Development Toolkit. So let's show you all that. First step is, once inside Bluemix, we'll see a rich catalog of runtimes and services that it exposes. First thing we'll do is click on the mobile cloud icon to create our mobile backend application. We'll select the Node.js runtime, as that is what Bob is most familiar with, and we will give it a host name and a name. Now, I've already taken the liberty of creating this ahead of time, and I'll show you what that looks like. I've actually bound it to a number of services. Many of these get simply bound to the application because it is a mobile application. We see here our push service is already bound. Now let's talk about the cloud integration service. The very first thing that we'd like to do is expose an API via Secure Connector. Now we can manage our Secure Connectors here that allow us to download Secure Connectors, install them on-prem, and that enables the communication between our code here, our API here, and the backing database. Now I've already created a backing database endpoint, but we can use that endpoint to dynamically look at all schemas that are present within that database and extract certain tables that we would like to expose as APIs to the Bob application. Let's say, for example, we choose account, which is the customer record tables that exist on that database. All that we would need to do is hit create API, we'll give it a name, if I can spell correctly, sample description, and off we go. Now what gets created, of course, is then an API that we can invoke using this criteria. Here's our URL, here's our consumer space, and off we go. Now, Bob's application will also make use of the push service. The one thing that Bob needs to do is, once he's registered with Google Messaging, which is what we'll use today, we will edit the Google Cloud Messaging criteria to inject our authentication token as well as our sender ID or project number within this push notification configuration. Lastly, what Bob will need to do is invoke the CF push command to push his application into production. Let's take a look at the Jane angle. This is Jane's code. Now, one of the first things we'll see is that Jane will invoke the MBAS SDK and will leverage the application, the backend integration application that was created on Bob's behalf. If we go back to Bluemix and look at the screen representing that application, we will see that an application ID has been generated for this app. This will be needs to be placed when we initialize the SDK here. Now, a couple of other things to note in this application is that we'll be building a CRM system that will update views and will inject records when a user inputs fields into the application. We can see here that the code interacts with the backend Acme CRM system. Here, for example, we see the Acme CRM name as what's been given to us as we've assigned to our application. And in this particular case, we're doing a refresh view task, which will refresh the view of the application. So let's take a look at what that application looks like now. I'm mirroring the display of my mobile device. Once I log in, you will see that in the menu I have now pushed in my mobile application called Acme Customer. When we start it, it will dynamically refresh the view, as I showed you in that code, and this will bring together all of the entries in that backing on-prem DB2 system, as well as those entries stored in Salesforce that backs Anvil's R Us. Now, if we try to add a customer name that already exists in that backing DB2 system, we should get an error indicating that that particular customer is already present. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to input just a random address here. And when I hit send, what we see now is a return code being returned by the Bob integration application saying that that account already exists in DB2. We know that customer record already exists in our CRM system. Let's pick another name. This one is an Anvil's R Us name that exists in the Salesforce CRM system. And there we see we get a failure there as well. Now we've also integrated our app with the Pitney Bowes address validator. So now if we try to insert a unique name, let's call it Impact, we notice that I actually input the wrong zip here. So I expect that this call actually fails with an address invalid message. This is actually invoking the Pitney Bowes address validator API, and it's failing because, of course, we know that the zip is incorrect. So if I correct it, and we now attempt to add the record, what we should see is that the record get created and a message, a push notification will be sent to my mobile device from the Bob integration application. We just landed Impact as a customer. Now, I'll also show you that if we check our Twitter feed for the Bluemix cloud integration test, we see that 18 seconds ago, we tweeted that we just landed the customer Impact. And with that, I will conclude. Thank you all for joining me. Look forward to seeing you at Impact and more excitement.